Hello and welcome to today's MSI 2024 recap where we're going to cover day 11, PSG G2, BLG T1. These two series, although not similar in terms of competitiveness, I felt like neither one was a blowout, neither one was a stomp or slaughter or whatever people like to throw on these, although that's a 3-0, and we'll talk about why I don't believe it was a complete blowout. We had a really competitive second series between BLG T1, more competitive than 3-1 would indicate. Predictions went 2-0 on the day. I thought 3-1 for both, and the second one it worked out. So PSG G2, the reason why this isn't a blowout is game one and partially game three. So obviously game two we'll get to, but it was a 20-minute game, so that was a blowout in my opinion. But game one, 17-minute laning phase, and PSG actually were quite competitive for the majority of that. Now, there was a team fight as we hit the 15-minute mark or so that ended up giving G2 an advantage, and they went and ran with it. At 17-15, Caps had a 1K gold lead. Broken Blade had a 700 gold lead, although Ija actually solo killed BB in top lane. Yike 17 CS lead, but Betty and Woody slight gold lead in the bot lane. Plays 3-2 in favor. 3-3, so even. Grubs split. Once again, we had another day where the majority of games grubs are being split, so we are seeing a change in the approach to how they want to attack that objective. PSG had 3 Drakes. That's significant. They were able to get to Soul Point in this game. They had a win condition. And in my opinion, if you're blowing out a team, they really don't have a win con. PSG had a win con, and that was Soul. So 3-1. Now, the biggest issue for PSG, in addition to kind of throwing the game away in the early, towards the end of the laning phase, they also got a Baron. But they came out negative on that Baron. Down 700 gold. Now, they lost a team fight right after, but they weren't able to properly really make up that gold difference that they lost. You get 15-25 when you take the Baron to begin with. So, that hurt. And G2 then got a Baron, and it was worth 3,300 and ended the game. So, G2 using their Baron properly, getting a good angle to take it and being able to utilize it, where PSG lost a team fight around it and struggled. Maple on the Talia in game one was very good. I think he had 9 of his 10 or 11 kills in this series in that game. And PSG had a strong chance at winning game one, in my opinion, in at least as far as the mid game was concerned. And then, you get to the late game and things may change. Game two, this game was lost in the first 5 minutes. PSG inting their face-off, in particular Woody. Woody looked awful on the Nautilus. It was one of the worst Nautilus games I've seen in quite some time. He did have a nice hook onto Mickey when Mickey was being, what's it called? Isn't Fates called Callista's ulti? But regardless, being brought in, he was able to get the hook in there to actually follow and kill Mickey. But by that point, the game was already over. I mean, they had roamed mid lane and allowed Caps to get fed on the LeBlanc, and it was just not good after that. Very, very bad. So, 15-minute laning phase, and the game ended 5 minutes later. To put in perspective how big the blowout was at that point, Caps was ahead 3K gold at 15 minutes. 39 CS. Bot lane up 1.8. Jungler, Yike, 1.5. They took all 6 grubs. They took the Rift Herald, 2 Drakes. There was no Baron to be available. I mean, hell, that was just a crushing performance by G2, in part due to PSG just inting their face off. It wasn't necessarily G2 imposing their will, it was PSG making some really puzzling decisions. So there's not really much to say about that game. It's so one-sided. Game 3, this one, not as close as game 1, but nowhere near a blowout like game 2. 10 minutes or so, 10:30, the first turret falls, and actually PSG takes that first turret. And their top side were ahead at that point. Both Ija, and Junjia ahead 200, 300 gold respectively, 23 CS. You may say that's not a lot of gold, and Caps and Hans are up 1.1 combined. It's like, yeah, but that means the gold difference is like 500, 600 gold at this point, so it's anybody's game. They are not being outclassed in the first 10 minutes at least. Play-wise, because it was such a short laning phase, both teams only made one play. Grubs were split in this one 4-2. G2 took all 3 Drakes. That was important, and also had an effective 3,000 gold power play. Caps was disgusting in this entire series. Tristana in particular was a really strong game. That might have been game 3. He almost had a penta. Thank God Maple didn't just give it to him. Some people really think that it's okay when players give. I'm not big on the giving charity pentas. So that was nice that Maple actually continued to play the game and not give. But Caps was dominant in this entire series. I mean, you combine the 3 games, he was up 4.6k gold over 3 games, so almost on average like 1.5 actually 1,533 gold. So there's a big diffy there. And I mean, it's the stats are literally indicative of that. I mean, Caps went 23 kills and 2 deaths, 27 assists, 29% of damage to lead the way. Plays. PSG made 5, G2 made 6. So out of these 11, more than half of them went to mid lane. G2 went mid lane 4 times to ensure Caps was in a good spot. Grubs in favor of G2, 12-6, but PSG did take 2 Heralds. 3-6, 6-3, G2 advantage on Barons and Drakes. Jesus Christmas. So G2 took 2 Barons on average, 3,100 gold. PSG had that 1 Baron where they actually lost 700 gold. I already went over Caps' stats, but Broken Blade had the best KDA, 10 kills, 3 deaths, 29 assists. Betty, 4, 14, and 13, 29% of damage in the loss, leading the way for PSG. Unfortunately, this is where PSG's ride ended. Maple and Betty getting an opportunity to showcase to new league fans just how good the PCS is now. And honestly, these players were better a couple years ago. And, I mean, the PCS has been consistently very good. This is actually the first time that Maple is not finishing 3rd, 4th at MSI. Regularly, the PCS squad would finish ahead of one of the 4 major region teams, whether it was EU or North America at MSI. So, really, 5th place is very fair for them compared to, I don't know where they're actually, I didn't check where they actually finished, but the point is, if they finish 5th, 6th, that would make sense that they'd finish above an EU or an NA team because of their history. BLG T1. So this one, was it as close as I thought it would be? I guess so, right? I had BLG winning 3-1. Part of me felt like, I actually double-checked my prediction because I updated the Discord prediction standings, and I thought to myself, I probably predicted 3-2 because, this is a tight series. And it was a tight series early on. But as it went along, BLG kind of had the answer for T1. So in game 1, laning phase was 12 minutes, 30 seconds. T1 were in a good spot, but BLG were a lot more active. So BLG made 5 plays, T1 only 1. 6 grubs for BLG. T1 said, we'll take Drakes, but that didn't make a difference in the end. BLG ended with their 1 Baron, about 1,100 gold. At 12:30, a big reason why they were in a good spot. Knight up 1.5k gold on Faker. He solo killed Faker, Talia, into Corky. Knight had Faker's number in this series. Faker making a lot of uncharacteristic decisions, especially later on in games 3 and 4 with positioning on the Vygar and Akali that made you scratch your head. When you're micromanaging everybody, it is tough. Game 2, 15-minute laning phase. T1 would respond, winning this one. 600 gold lead for Faker in mid. Elkanon had a 600 gold lead in bot lane for, BLG. Faker had the Talia, and then Knight had the Corky in game 2, so they flipped matchup. BLG went mid lane twice. T1 hit all 3 areas 1 time. Grubs split 4-2. T1 taking the majority, but BLG taking the Rift Herald. Drakes 3-1 in favor of T1. T1 did need 2 Barons to end this one, 2,100 gold. We're not seeing a lot. The majority of games actually are won with the team only needing to take 1. which is something interesting that I'm starting to notice. You know, these even in these close matchups, usually one Baron is all the team needs to get ahead enough to be able to win. Now, of course, we did well. No, I mean, hell, G2 only needed one, even though PSG took one before that to win that game. Game 3, this is where things started going off the rails. I thought the Vigar pick was kind of weird. I honestly thought also that the Keria on TK throughout this entire series was kind of, well, 3 out of the 4 games was a bit much. I understand his TK is good, but at the same time, let's try and utilize his champion pool a bit. Instead, we're putting Faker on Vagar, and he's not very mobile. He's getting caught out in the mid to late game as they're trying to get vision and things like that. That actually did result in them losing game 3. He got picked off. Then I think Zeus got picked off shortly after to allow BLG to take the Baron that would end up winning this game. So T1 made 4 plays. They went bot lane 3 times. The lane swaps and things like that. They kept trying to dive bot lane. BLG would go bot lane twice. Laning phase ended at 12:15, and there were no massive gaps. Knight had 600 gold in mid. Faker had 11 CS. That kind of goes to show you that BLG were more active. They were able to get turret plates. They were able to get kills and objectives. So that's something also that I like now that I'm actually doing this laning phase stats myself once again. I did it a couple of years ago. But something that is noticeable is CS is not as indicative as gold. CS is a good way to get gold. It's a consistent way to get gold. It's an easier way to get gold, and that's pretty much. But gold is a bit bigger indicator of who's actually ahead in lane, right? Are you actually, do you have more gold than your opponent? Are you utilizing that gold? And then again, you also got to think to yourself, champion-wise, does the champion need gold? Is this champion a facilitator, carry, and we go through all that? But regardless, Knight ahead 600, Faker ahead 11 CS, just something to kind of go over. And even in bot lane, Guma, Keria were down 300 gold, but still 16 CS. That's a big difference also. Grub split 3-3. BLG did take 3 Drakes to 1, and they had 1 Baron that went about 2,400 gold. Game 4, a lot slower. Roughly laning phase ended at 17:30. That's when the scoreboard disappeared, and it did not come back for at least a minute, so I utilized 17:30 compared to 18:30 after the first turret fell. So at that time, 700 gold lead for Knight, 29 CS lead. I think he was on Tristana into Akali. I am not a big Akali supporter. If you watched my video yesterday, personally, I think that pick is not the way to go. Unless you're on a team that's going to have a lead and be able to actually control vision. We saw that Cream really struggled on Akali in part due to the top esports squad not doing well with vision against Gen G yesterday in Game 5. So, I mean, without great vision, you're not going to be able to get flanks and you're not going to be able to do anything with it. And honestly, it was underwhelming. Really, honestly, I don't want to see Akali being picked unless it's by a team that is going to have prio and is going to be able to get vision control. So, Game 4, BLG very active. Shun on the Nidalee, trying to make things happen. It didn't necessarily result in kills. A very low kill game. I think maybe 5 kills through the first 23 minutes or so combined. But more active than Owner. Owner only went bot lane once. Grub split 3-3. T1 did take 3 Drakes to 1. Something to note. But the 1 Baron ended up going to BLG because BLG got a couple timely picks, and 3,900 gold later, they would win. So the average totals for that series, 16 plays for BLG and only 9 for T1. So BLG a lot more active, at least in my opinion, in the making plays department. Grubs 14-10 and Rift Heralds 3-1 in favor of BLG. Drakes 9-7 for T1. Barons 24-48 gold over 3 Barons for BLG, and 21-44 over 2 for T1. Stats: Elk 16-8 and 28, 29% of damage in the win. Knight 16-7 and 23, best KDA, and then Faker led the way in damage for T1. 9, 13, 11, 28% of damage in the loss. Some underwhelming things in this series in addition to the Akali. Guma, only 3 kills. And I don't like using kills as a stat or nothing, but I mean, it just kind of goes to show you how poorly the bot lane of T1 actually did in terms of impacting the Rift in a damage sense. And they were playing Senna all the time, so what do you really expect? But the point is, Keria had more kills than Guma. I think everybody on BLG had more kills than Guma. That's not great. Your 80 carry's not getting gold. That's not good. Jungle wise, I mean, Shun got the better of Owner. BLG got the better of T1. They were more active. And if you're more active in a series like this where both teams are really, really good, you're probably in a good spot. You know, are these two teams on the same tier? T1 are a little more meta dependent than BLG are. So 3-1 isn't a big shock. LPL 1, team that we're projecting to win versus the world champions of 2023. You know, but we're also the 2 seed from the LCK. So this matchup we could see again. I don't think you can completely rule it out. Is it likely? I don't believe so, but I also believe that it's a possibility. You know, I don't think it's impossible. So that's it for the video. Thank you for watching. If you liked the video, like it, subscribe to the channel for daily League of Legends content. Follow me on Twitter, join the Discord, become a YouTube supporter, and hope to see you again tomorrow.